So, the Tales of Arcadia have come to a close. After 3 series and a movie, the Trollhunter saga is finally over, and I've gotta say, I'm not a fan. By which I mean, I loved the series as a whole, but this final movie is, oh boy, it's really something. So, first things first, let's get the stuff I liked out of the way. It can be visually very pretty, and I loved the Pacific Rim vibes of the fight scenes. That's it. It's a good-looking movie. Which is a shame, because the rest of it is a goddamn trashfire. So let's get into it, shall we? The first thing I've got to talk about is, well, there's no easy way to say this. We've got to talk about the Mpreg Steve plot.
No, the question is, why did the pickles taste so good with ice cream?
I hate it here. If I had monetization, it would be getting nuked from orbit right about now. So, back up. What the fuck is this, and why were our poor unfortunate eyeballs subjected to it? Well, apparently, on Acaridian 5, getting pregnant is just very, very easy. So easy, it doesn't even involve any kind of sexual contact. All it takes is 7 kisses on the lips. Which Steve did not know, so when Aja returned to Earth to help out with the situation they have going on with the Arcane Order, well...
Steve. No, Steve, no! Oh, my blonde oaf, you shouldn't have done that.
Now, I want to make it clear, I don't blame Aja for this. After all, she's also very young, and it's quite possible that the fact that she'd have to explicitly tell a partner this did not even cross her mind until it was too late. But, anyway, that's not enough, because on Acaridian 5 it is the people who are assigned male at birth, or however they would actually define Steve, because, yeah, we haven't actually explored Acaridian gender identity at all. They've just conformed to Earth standards to fit in. We haven't actually taken a look at how they view things over there. But that's not the point here. Anyway, it's them who carry the children, hence Mpreg Steve. He then proceeds to spend the rest of the movie being the butt of the joke in every scene he's in, playing up every joke you've ever heard about expectant people to the nth degree, except he's a man, and there's weird alien biology involved, both of which are supposed to make the situation funnier, I guess. I really hate this because, well, if you're new here, hi, I'm a trans guy, and jokes and sensationalism around pregnant men were a big part of the internalized transphobia that stopped me from coming to terms with my identity at an earlier age. And on a less personal note, this is a literal nothing plot. It's just there as a poor excuse for comic relief, it clashes horribly with the tone of the rest of the movie, and it goes absolutely nowhere. What's worse is I can actually see ways in which it could have been done well. Like, okay, Acaridians reproduce via mouth-to-mouth contact, and it's powerful enough to arguably override human biology. Sure, I can suspend my disbelief. I don't have a problem with the literal space aliens being a little bit weird. They're space aliens. Where my problems start is with the fact that it's literally just a joke. This whole plotline is a joke and nothing more. Never mind that at the time this is happening, Aja is between 17 and 18, and Steve is 18 or 19. So, essentially, we have an accidental teenage pregnancy, and it's played for a laugh. The only thing I can say in its favor is that Steve is excited to be a dad. And while all of this is obviously a shock to him, he doesn't hate it. That would have made this part actually unwatchable. But, honestly, it's still really bad on its own, And it only gets worse when you stop and think about the possibilities around doing this plotline right. Like, okay, they've decided they absolutely have to have the Mpreg Steve plot. What's next? Honestly, a real talk about accidental pregnancies, especially this early in life, and what options Steve has available to him would have made this actually fantastic. But, of course, we don't get that. We don't even get any kind of serious moment between Aja and Steve where they can get a moment to themselves to discuss how they actually feel about this. Because the apocalypse is fast approaching, the clock is ticking, let's go people! So, yeah, it's a nothing plot featuring a trope that should have been left behind in the early 2000s, with no attempt to modernize it or bring any kind of empathy into the situation. Like, I'm not expecting a kids' movie to openly discuss abortion, but oh my god, could you imagine? Just to have it brought up as an option to present that there's a choice even though Steve's here is to keep the babies. And yes, I did say babies, because there's like 7 of them. Honestly, sometimes I hate my brain because I'm too autistic not to try to logic this out, and I am in hell. Which brings me to my final, more petty problem with this plotline. It makes no sense given what we've seen of Acaridian 5 so far. See, in a quick funny haha moment, which is not funny at all, Aja surprises Steve with the fact that Acaridians apparently have on average 3 to 5 kids at a time. Which, setting aside the inherent grossness of making a joke out of not only a surprise pregnancy, but a surprise pregnancy with multiples, it also doesn't compute. Like, the final 7 that Steve ended up having is already higher than average, but that's fine. Twins happen. It's fine. No, what really bothers me is our only previous knowledge of Acaridian children, Aja and Krell Taran, who are both singletons. Given the apparent average of 3 to 5, the chances of one couple having 2 singleton births in a row seems truly astronomical. Not impossible, but similar to the chances of a human couple having 2 sets of triplets or something. Why am I trying to make this make sense? It's an Mpreg plotline. It's not even like the kids are alive at the end of the movie, technically. It literally doesn't matter, but my brain won't let it go. And no, they didn't commit mass infanticide, but that does actually lead me into what I want to talk about next. The death toll in this movie is fucking ridiculous. It's already a tired idea, you know, the whole, oh, it's the final installment, someone has to die. Like, yes, as a writer, you have to be willing to kill your characters if it serves the story, but this is not a hard and fast rule. You don't have to kill anyone in the final installment. You literally do not. And this movie especially does it with remarkably little grace. We lose Nomura, Strickler, arguably Archie even though he doesn't actually die, Nari and Toby all within an hour and 44 minutes. Belrock and Skryl also die, which I'm not jazzed about honestly, but I will get to that. And the worst part? I felt nothing. The closest I came to being truly emotional about any of them was Archie when he got trapped in the Dragon Troll market. The main problem here, aside from how utterly unnecessary all of it was, is that we aren't given any time to breathe. There's no time set aside for us or the characters to take in the loss. No time to grieve. Nomura gets crushed to rubble by the Nature Titan, and she's barely ever mentioned again. Strickler flies to his death in an ultimately futile attempt to take down the Ice Titan, and we barely get any time to sit with it before it's up and on again. Archie gets trapped, Nari dies to kill Skryl, and Toby dies to give Jim a fighting chance against Belrock. And none of it matters. This, by the way, is not at all helped by Emil Hirsch's overacting. I hate to say it, but honestly, any feelings I might have had during Toby's death scene were unceremoniously crushed by 3 things. How utterly cliché it was, my complete certainty that none of this was going to stick, and Hirsch's overacting. I had my first misgivings when Strickler flew into the Ice Titan, and we got this gem.
No!
But I could have put that down to really, really cliché writing. Like, the long drawn out no is an actual death scene meme in media, cliché writing. But Toby's death scene really did hammer home that, at least partially, it is Hirsch just going way too hard.
No! There's gotta be a way! There's always a way!
This could be down to directional choices, I don't know, but the point is, I felt nothing. Though, again, a big part of that is because I was so sure none of the deaths would stick. And I've already made a video on why I dislike death fakeouts, so I'll avoid going further in depth here, link in the card and so forth. The suspicion started right around the time we lost Strickler. Nomura's death, I could believe. I wasn't happy about it, but she's just minor enough that I'd believe a kid's series would be willing to kill her in the finale for added drama. Strickler, though? No way. Especially not with his engagement to Barbara. One way or another, I strongly suspected they'd be bringing him back. By the time we got around to Toby, of all people, yeah, I was 100% sure that something major was gonna have to change. Which is where we get the time travel. Oh boy, the time travel. In the end, with all the destruction and death that's gone on, Jim takes the chronosphere, which, by the way, is spelled like this for some ungodly reason, talk about a dyslexic nightmare, to travel back in time. Except he goes a bit further back than most of us would have liked. By which I mean he goes all the way back to the very beginning of the series. Also, can I get a yikes in chat for this lovely little line right here?
Don't stop trying until I love you.
Like, Claire, honey, I realize this might be your perspective right now, and you're very emotionally distraught, but way to make choices for a person you no longer are, with no way for her to know about it or consent to it. It's creepy. No. Anyway, with that little caveat dealt with, I feel like I'm probably the 1000th person to point out that Jim could have traveled back to the beginning of the movie and saved us all a lot of heartache and frustration, but no. No, we're not getting that. Instead, we get this shit. And Toby's the Trollhunter for the next go-around, I guess. Now, being an avid reader of fanfiction, I am no stranger to the time travel fix-it. It is a tried and true trope, which I find quite entertaining in the right contexts. This is not the right context. A friend of mine compared it to an "it was all a dream" ending, since everything that happened in the series is basically null and void, but I'd argue this is actually worse. Because an ending where everything turns out to have been a dream is still an ending. Sure, it can be hollow and disappointing, but the story ends. This is not an ending. It's the very beginning of every single time travel fix-it I've ever fucking read. It's fun to sit and theorize where the story might go for maybe half an hour if you're so inclined, but then you realize this was supposed to be the end, and suddenly you're left with the exact same disappointing feeling of non-completion you get when a series you love is abruptly cancelled with no time to pull together a finale. Except this was on purpose, which just makes it worse. See, the ending of a story serves a very simple purpose. To be an ending. In a satisfying ending, I look for just a few things. Does it wrap up the story? And does it fit the tone and theme? I honestly don't think that's too much to ask, do you? I'd just like for the story to have an actual end. But no, apparently not. Instead, the whole series I just spent years following is nothing more than an overly long, inciting incident to a story I'll never even get to see. Because this has solved exactly 0 problems. The world is back to where it was when Jim first got the amulet, so Boolar's currently running around trying to reconstruct Killahead Bridge, and Strickler's still working for the Janus Order, and. Sure, Jim has knowledge from the future, and possibly his future amulet too, so that might help, but it doesn't change that literally all of the problems we've already solved have been reset to 0 progress. And that's the exact opposite of what an ending is supposed to do, and I'm mad about it. Now, to take on the final, biggest problem I have with this movie. The antagonists. The utter shambles that was how they handled the Arcane Order. Let's start with the obvious. Nari, Belrock, and Skryl are the only canonically queer characters we have, and they're all dead by the end of the movie. So that sucks. Furthermore, while the wiki states that all of them use multiple pronoun sets, he, they for Skryl, and she, they for Nari and Belrock, there is not a single point in this movie where any of them are referred to by the singular they. So that's fun. The queers are dead, and we have plausible deniability on that they were ever queer in the first place. Yay. But believe it or not, that's only one part of my gripe with how they were handled. The second part is just literally everything else. Because Belrock and Skryl's motivation is sound. It's a tale as old as time, really. The story of humans fucking up nature and nature coming back to kick our asses about it. Hell, it's our current reality. Which is why all of the characters' attitude to how this problem should be solved really doesn't sit right. If the demigods of all of nature are coming to kill us and start over because we've fucked up the planet, I don't really feel like let's kill them is the right move. In general, killing immortal spirits of nature feels like a very poorly thought out strategy. That might be down to my own spiritual beliefs coloring my perception, but still, doesn't seem like a good move, strategically speaking. It's the classic example of a Batman villain having an understandable, even sound motivation, but because they're doing crime and hurting people, we proceed to completely ignore all of their points and just lock them away as fast as humanly possible. Because, they are right. Climate change is real, and it is a problem. And they are well within their rights to be upset about it. Not kill humanity and start over upset, but upset anyway. This is why, in my opinion, a much better story than just immediately jumping to let's hit the problem until it stops moving would have been to at least try to find a way to talk them down. Maybe make it so Nari finds a way to convince Skryl that there's some good in humanity, or at least to put the murder on hold until they've had a chance to show him some of our better sides, and then have the two of them together convince Belrock of the same. Give us an ending on a note of, yes, we fucked up, we hurt you, and we're sorry, but what you're doing in return isn't right either. So work with us, teach us how to undo what we've done, let us show you we're willing to learn. And while you're at it, help us fling some billionaires into space sans rockets. Especially at this moment, when half of the globe seems to be on fire every other week while the other half is drowning, giving us antagonists like the Arcane Order and then proceeding to completely disregard all of their very valid grievances in favor of, admittedly very, very cool, Pacific Rim-style fight scenes, it just really doesn't sit right. So, in conclusion, this movie was a fucking trash fire. Thank you for your time. And thank you for watching this video. If you liked it, consider liking it and maybe subscribing. I will be back here Thursday after next. Bye!